Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 60. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Monday. Steelers Nation, unfortunately, Pittsburgh's winning streak of 2 could not turn into 3 with a loss Sunday to the Baltimore Ravens, 16-14, dropping Pittsburgh to 5-8 on the season. And Dave, I mentioned this, I think, in my analysis I did for the site this morning, a quick video. Sometimes, I love getting into the nitty-gritty of the X's and O's, and we'll talk about that as well, I'm sure, of why a team lost and the game behind the game. But this one, it does not take a genius to figure out why the Pittsburgh Steelers lost this game.
You're absolutely right, and you could stat sheet scout this one and determine who won this one. Look, congratulate them on a team loss too, because it was very much that in all 4 phases. They were offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. They lost all 4 of those battles, I think, overall. So, but yeah, you can definitely look at the at the game book at this and make a solid determination of which team won, which team lost. And really all you have to do is look at a possession chart, really, Alex, I think, because that will tell the entire story, even without the results, that last column that shows touchdown, punt, interception, all like that for the most part. I mean, obviously leave the interceptions in there because that tells the story. But man, this, and as bad as things were going, this was a game that they had a chance up until the end, even, up until that final drive. If you get a stop on that final drive and manage to get the football back, you're a field goal away from winning a football game. So it's amazing that as bad as things went for them, they still had a chance with, a little under 3 minutes left in the ball game.
Right, just could not close the game out, and that is the theme of the season, whether that's offense or defense not getting a stop or offense not making a play. But yeah, the couple numbers that really come to mind when you talk about just the box score, scouting Pittsburgh, 204 in the red zone, and even that probably doesn't tell the whole story. 3 turnovers for the Steelers, and Baltimore ran for 215. So look at those numbers alone, and that's all you really have to know to understand why the outcome was a loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quickly, from an inactive standpoint and roster move standpoint, Chris Boswell officially activated on Saturday. He kicked yesterday and looked fine. Matthew Wright was waived in a corresponding move. From the inactives on Sunday morning, the only surprise there was Malik Reed, the outside linebacker, who was dealing with a back injury, was upgraded from questionable to no game status on Saturday, so thought he would play, but a scratch comes Sunday morning. Don't know if that's related to the back or related to something else. The other inactive's pretty standard. And then from an injury standpoint, in-game, obviously talking about 2 pretty big ones in quarterback Kenny Pickett in concussion protocol, leaving early in that game. And then also Chris Wormley with a scary-looking left knee injury. We'll get an update on hopefully by Tuesday.
Yeah, and that went back and looked at that injury on Wormley, and it sadly looks like it might be non-contact. There's only just the TV initial TV angle of it, though. But it looks like he's getting into his pass rush, and looks like that left leg just kind of gave way on him, and the pass goes away, and then you lose him out of frame, and then obviously the next sight you see of him is laying on the turf in some pain and holding his left knee. So we'll have to see how that works out for him. Obviously, based on what we see just on the TV, it doesn't look great, but stranger things have happened, and maybe it won't be as serious. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed on that when it comes to him. And the Pickett thing, well, with him being in concussion protocol, I mean, we'll see. this is the second one that he's had, right? Since this year, and we'll just see how it plays out. You never know. Pat Freiermuth, sometimes we thought maybe he would come back quicker, and he didn't. So it all depends on how quickly Pickett progresses through the protocol. He progressed super quick. It sounded like that last time that he went through. In fact, didn't he practice all
on Wednesday? He was full by Wednesday.
Yeah, all 3 days that last time that he had it. So I don't dare guess about when it comes to concussion protocols. So we'll just have to see how it goes, and maybe Mike Tomlin will have the only update Mike Tomlin's probably going to give us on Tuesday is he's still in protocol.
Sure.
That's probably all we're going to get out of that. So just keep your fingers crossed about Wormley there. So, and then Malik Reed, that was quite a little bit of a surprise. All those guys got upgraded from questionable, and those guys being Deontay Johnson, TJ Watt, and then Malik Reed, all getting, technically, upgraded off the injury report because they went from questionable to no designation. So you entered Sunday with no players on the injury report, so to speak. And then for him to come up inactive makes you kind of wonder if something happened pregame, or if just maybe the idea was to have, DeMarvin Leal kind of play that quasi, outside line stand-up position, in the front, because maybe they knew that the Ravens were going to be kind of a run-heavy team within that. So hard to say for sure why it was inactive, but it is what it is.
If it's the latter, that's a big concern, because if you're not good enough to play Steelers Ravens, then, what was the calculation in trading for the guy in the first place? But we'll have to see if Mike Tomlin has any sort of update to Marvin Leal, Jameer Jones, splitting snaps behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. To go back to Pickett,
and quite honestly, Malik Reed probably wasn't best suited to play on the edge against the Ravens, even if healthy, if we're being totally honest, right?
Sure, right. That's my point. It could be the back. It may have flared up in pregame workout. Who knows? But it could have been just a matter of Leal's a bigger guy, a better scheme fit. Now, there wasn't a lot of snaps to go around behind Watt and Highsmith, but yeah, I mean, if that's the case, if they felt like Reed was not in a position to play against the Ravens due to his size limitations, then that's certainly a big concern.
Sure is, and it's one of the ones that we highlighted after they traded for him, right?
Right. To go to Kenny Pickett here for a moment, obviously the concussion, we'll have to see how he goes through protocol, just have to take it day by day, but the circumstances surrounding it are a bit unusual. I mean, he gets opening possession, he gets thrown down by Roquan Smith, hits his head, goes into the tent to be checked for a concussion. I believe the independent neurologist or whoever that is that works cited that, wanted Pickett to get checked. He's cleared, comes back the next series, is not hit or even touched, and then apparently is symptomatic again or starts showing symptoms, and then gets checked for a concussion, and then officially yanked and put in protocol. So a pretty unusual way for that to occur, where you played after you apparently suffered some sort of potential or actual concussion.
Yeah, and what did Mike Tomlin have to say about that? He was asked, let me pull up the
not much. He just said basically, he didn't really know the whole layout and timeline of what happened.
Well, that will be under fire this week for sure because of that, because it was quite curious. I just want to read the full. He was asked what happened when Kenny was able to go back in the game and then could not go back in. He says, I think when he became symptomatic, he was pulled from the game and evaluated for concussion. I don't know about the sequence of the details regarding the sequence.
Now, it may be true, putting that funny wording aside.
Sure.
It may be true that that's how it happened, and concussions, I think some people like to treat concussions as all the same, and they can be very different to different people in different moments. But optically, given what's happened to Tua earlier this year and just the heightened nature of concussions, especially with quarterbacks this year, not a good look, we'll say, for the Steelers. Right,
and I'm not that's why my little chuckle there, because I'm not insinuating anything was wrong. There's more to the story that we don't know. It's just the way that Mike Tomlin answered the question. That's not going to be enough right now for the media and all like that. And this is going to be under. I think it's going to be under a microscope. At least I think it probably should be under a microscope here. So come Tuesday's press conference, it'd be nice for Mike to kind of lay that out at the opening statement of what happened and why it happened, and just to get it all out there. And there won't be any, hopefully there won't be anything that needs to be further evaluated from that. But I would get that out of the way on Tuesday real quick.
At the least, I imagine the NFL will be calling the Steelers and asking some questions about the process and procedure and go from there. But we'll get the
And once again, I'm not saying they did anything wrong.
Right,
I'm just saying you just need to be transparent with what happened.
Sure. Just optically, it looks a bit unusual, and there's probably some questions that are going to be raised, and understandably so. So we'll see what Pickett's status is and how quickly he may be able to return. But let's get to the game itself. And, the biggest issue offensively, just to sum this game up in 10 seconds, biggest issue offensively, turnovers, biggest issue defensively, run defense. What side do you want to start on breaking this one down, Dave?
Real quick, what did you think about the Pickett hit and tackle? You wrote about it. I called it, not that you didn't need it called to your attention, but felt it probably should have been written about last night. It was. You look at kind of the rules and all. To me, it looks like Roquan Smith has a hand on the face mask. It feels like there should have been some sort of flag there.
Yeah, some could argue roughing the passer for the way he was thrown down. I personally wasn't pounding the table for that kind of call, but the nature, you saw the Herbert, roughing the passer call. There's so little margin for error that you could justify it. And at the least, his hand appears to be on the face mask. And the way the rule is, basically, if you put your hand on there, even if you're not necessarily twisting, and that's the reason why you tackle somebody, if your hand's on there, does not come off, letter of the law, should have been a penalty.
Right. And yeah, look, I think it should have been the face mask penalty at the minimum there. How much would it impact the game? It's just, get it right kind of thing. You want to protect the quarterbacks. You want to call flags like they did on the one with Herbert, and heck, go back several weeks ago on that one with, who was it? Chris Jones and the fumble, and trying to avoid not. Anyway, it's very uneven when it comes to that, and it's been that way for a while. So standing on the soapbox in this podcast isn't going to change anything with that. But I guess we'll get our answer on Saturday when the fines come out, right? Because players can get fined even if they did not get flagged for a play. So that will be our answer, whether or not our analysis that there should have been a flag on that play is correct or not.
All right, we shall see. But let's go back to the game here again. Offense, 3 turnovers. Defense allows 215 on the ground against the Ravens team, who was little threat to throw the football. What side do you want to start on?
Let's start on the defense for a change, because we already know the three interceptions and several things that obviously played into the loss here are more can be more easily visibly pointed to on the offensive side, and we usually start on the offense. So let's start on the defense today. Okay.
I mean, there are two competing thoughts here. Pittsburgh only allowed 16 points, and by the Keith Butler score metric, if you should score, you should allow less than 17 per game, and Pittsburgh technically did, so that should be winning football, but it didn't really feel like that when you allowed 215 on the ground. At one point, in the second half of that game, Anthony Brown, a third-string rookie quarterback, his first NFL game, comes into the contest to relieve the injured and potentially concussed Tyler Huntley, and you allow 215. J.K. Dobbins runs for over 100 yards, his first game back in quite some time. Just not meeting the standard for Pittsburgh Steelers run defense.
Yeah, you want to get on them real hard in this, but at the same point, you hit on it, right? You keep any team under 17 points in a game. I mean, that's kind of what you want them to do, and they did that. And if the other team has to run their wheels off to even get to that point, I get it. Within that, look, here's the thing though, they They did not create any turnovers. They only had, a couple of sacks in this game, 2 in total. It didn't, because the Ravens were running so much, there obviously wasn't a lot of pass rushing opportunities. In fact, 17. This kind of remind me a little bit, not exactly, but the Houston game many moons ago, right?
Oh, the one where they lost 24-6 and they threw for like 15 yards. Carr did, yeah.
Yeah, but this time they actually threw for more yards than that. 104, I think, in total on just 11 completions in total on 17 total attempts. Look, they're not, you can't just look at the scoreboard, even though it's easy to do. This is in totality, that should have been few enough points for the Steelers to win. And now 3 times this season, they've held opponents to 17 or fewer points and lost the game. So you want to talk about a difference in your season. Circle those 3 games: the game against the Patriots, the game. What was the other one I'm missing here? The Ravens, and then what was the other one? Miami. That they held them down there. You knew they were going to run, right?
Sure.
Everybody knew they were going to run. You knew how they were going to run. When you look at how they actually ran, you want to talk about some predictability. There was a lot of predictability in a lot what they were doing, I thought, on the ground. And it's like, and they were saying, here it is, stop it. And you couldn't. And they even had, they were without Zeitler, right? At right guard. Huge kind of pregame development when it comes to that. Yeah, they got Dobbins back, yada yada. But I mean, remember that they have a backup quarterback in there, and there was no secret what they were going to do. They were going to run, and they even started, I think, who was it? Cologne, I think, at right guard, but I think he was pulled pretty quick, and they got Ben, what's
Cleveland.
his name? Yeah, Ben Cleveland there. He played pretty damn good in there from what I saw. But they just couldn't stop the run, Alex. They were getting blown off the football. Linebackers couldn't fit properly and make tackles. It just felt like everything was going 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah, I think they're rotating Cologne and Cleveland throughout that game and still had all that success on the ground. And while it was predictable that they ran the ball. It's what they always do. They had this pretty big, mix of in rotation of running backs. They really weren't any quarterback runs. Those are usually the things that hurt Pittsburgh, where they're either selling out so much on stopping the quarterback run with the mesh charge or things like that they allow the backs to run free, or the quarterback runs free because they're paying attention to the backs. I mean, the quarterback run element was really not a thing in this game. Tyler Huntley, he scrambled a couple times, but they really weren't designing many quarterback runs. Probably because they didn't want Huntley to get hurt and then have to turn to a third-string rookie quarterback center playing the game before. And obviously Huntley ended up getting hurt on one of the few quarterback runs or read plays that they called. So they allowed essentially all their rushing yards to just J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And what was really just the most depressing part was the end of the game, that last drive, a chance to get a stop, as you said, top of the show, get a stop there. Offense gets the ball back, a field goal wins the game, and they just could not get a stop. And whether you're talking gap schemes, which really were later in the game, or zone schemes a bit earlier in the game, it's not like Pittsburgh even missed a bunch of tackles. They just could not get off of blocks. They were getting destroyed at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage, some gap issues and probably assignment issues, just a lot of, just not being the physical team.
Absolutely. And you are exactly right when it comes to kind of those final 2 drives. In fact, let's go back to third quarter. When did the other quarterback came in? He came in like at 3-something, I think, in the third quarter, right? 3-something left in the third quarter. Is that right?
Yeah, 3:03. His first play was from his own 1-yard line.
All right. And from that point, they ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 running plays from that point. Now, how many plays in total did they run from there? You said it was from 303. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, because there was three kneel downs. It makes that 23, but 20 plays overall. How many times did I tell you they ran?
13, yeah.
All right. So, you knew what they were going to do from mostly from 3 point, from 3 something left in the third quarter, and you still couldn't stop it. Let me find out how many yards they gave up in that.
I mean,
time.
While you do that, and again, the last 2 drives they ran I forget how long, 12-play drive that took off almost 8 minutes off the clock, primarily running the football with their third string rookie quarterback, and you can't get a stop there. Then the actual last drive, you're facing 3rd and 3. They're going to run the ball on all 3 downs. You can't get the stop there. And that third down conversion that sealed the game was a pretty easy conversion. Edwards was not even touched by the time he crossed the first down marker. And so, again, it's one thing to know what the other team's going to do, but when you can't stop that really is what hurts.
14 runs, 69 yards on 14 runs. After the backup, the third stringer, if you will, came into the game.
Yeah, that's 5 yards a pop. I mean, just not acceptable.
And the yards after contact in the game overall, at least on the 2 big backs, was pretty phenomenal. I think both of them had 69, right?
Is that the number? I don't know the number.
Let me double check real quick here. I pulled it last night, but I lost my place here. Go ahead and fill some time again here.
Yeah, I mean, I think my terrible take today is talking about how much I focused on the Steelers' run game offensively being the litmus test, but really there was a good litmus test for the Steelers' run defense, which was around top 10 this year. Did not look good in the second half against Atlanta, and that carried over against Baltimore. And the Ravens are a good running team. You knew they were going to have some success running the football, but to this degree, to allow 215, even if you only allow 16 points, you couldn't get off the field. You couldn't get stops. And especially late in that game, that's where you really felt like, okay, you didn't allow a lot of points, but just no points, I guess, in those final 2 drives or whatever. It might be 3 points, whatever it was. But the time of possession battle, you lost badly, and you could not get stops when you knew it was coming, and you still could not prevent it from happening.
Dobbins, 49 of his 120 yards coming after contact. Gus Edwards, 49 of his 66 yards coming after contact. So I wasn't very good at math all the way through school, but 49 to 49, I think, is 98 yards. So nearly half of the yards that they allowed rushing came after contact.
Yeah, and again, it didn't feel like there were a ton of missed tackles. I mean, we'll have to see what Josh says in his missed tackles report later in the week, but, guys not getting off of blocks and just not winning the point of attack. That was the consistent team. Baltimore was just clearly the more physical and stronger team. And
obviously that double explosive run by Dobbins early. I mean, that every when we talk about explosive runs and double explosive runs, those are stealing, and
sure.
Not only did they have that double explode, they followed it right up with just blowing you off the football and getting into the end zone on the next play. So if you're going to give up those runs, defend the blades of grass, right? What we say all the time. If you're going to give up those big double, triple explosive plays that get on down the field, at least defend the blades of grass and left. And they were unable to do that on the very next play. So, I mean, yeah, they didn't give up a lot of pass complete. And you talk about the scrambles and all, there weren't, or the quarterback runs, obviously not hardly any by design. The scrambles, there were a couple of them that were effective, though, Yeah,
I think Pittsburgh had trouble with contain. I thought TJ Watt lost contain. I thought some of the edge and force players in the run game. It was Leal or Edmonds. I think maybe that was more on Leal. It was hard to tell. Edmonds was kind of coming down, but probably Leal. So just, edge contain was a problem both in the quarterback rush game and in the actual run game. This just felt like last year where your run defense got chewed up. You couldn't get off of blocks. Minka's making way too many tackles, had 11 in this game. That's a season high for him. This just had very much a carbon copy feel of the entire 2021 season.
Right. And look, there were, and once again, it's hard to when a defense only gives up 16 points, because if I would have told you ahead of this thing, Alex, that they only gave up 16 points, you probably like their chances, right?
Sure.
And we knew it was going to probably be a low scoring game, but if I would have guaranteed you on Friday when we did the podcast, Alex, I guarantee you the Ravens only score 16. You probably tell me that Steelers win, right?
Well, I guess I picked Pittsburgh to have 13 points in this game, so maybe I would say no. But obviously, just intellectually, the odds are you hold a team to 16, you're going to win most of those games.
Oh, yeah, you pretty close on that damn score, weren't you?
Yeah, I had 17-13. You were around me, weren't you?
I think I had 20-something to
– a little bit higher.
Yeah, I had a little bit higher there. But anyway, and look, here's the thing. No, you knew that once you gave the ball away at least once or twice on offense, you knew you were going to need probably another you're going to need to take away on defense, and they obviously didn't get it. But there were a few balls that were actually up in the air in this game. One went off the helmet of an offensive lineman that somehow found open space to drop, and there was one even was it the last drive, or it was the second to last drive, right? That got deflected from the rookie quarterback that DeMonte Casey was just out of his reach. I tried to get that one from my chair in Las Vegas, and I think I messed my back up a little bit more as a result of it. I found myself twisting trying to get that one, but I couldn't come down with it. Neither could Casey there. But
you got to work harder, Dave. You got to really want it.
Man, I can't play in the NFL anymore, Alex.
Anymore. That implied there was a time in which you could, which is interesting.
Right. No, and that's null. The big thing now is null. Is that coming from the whole World Cup thing right now? Everybody using the word null, or is
I've never heard that used recently. So,
all right. Anyway,
paying more attention than I am.
No, I couldn't get to it. Neither could Casey, but it was up there. I mean, what happens if Casey gets that where did that one go? That one got tipped off the wide receiver.
I think, it went off the back of his hand. Sutton was in coverage.
That was the field goal drive, right?
That was the field goal drive? Okay. I don't remember exactly when that was. And then how about the first, or maybe the second pass of the game that got thrown Cam Sutton's way on Mark Andrews? And that one, right. Sutton was covering, and it was kind of an awkward thing, a little bit out in front, but that one potentially could have been picked as well. So Baltimore barely passed this game, but you had arguably three chances where maybe if the ball bounces your way, you make a play.
We're forgetting the forced fumble that had joint possession.
Yeah, what a weird. Have you heard that one before? Ty, as you said, Ty goes to the runner.
Yeah, I can't remember. If I've heard it, it didn't stick in my mind, and I can't recall it.
How about just real quick the PI on both receiver and corner on the same play?
That's rare too. That's somebody just said, you know what? What'd you see? I don't know. What'd you see?
We're tied. Yeah, do it over.
Yeah, let's just do a do-over here. But I mean that's another instance. Ball on the ground, right?
Sure.
You needed turnovers in this game once you turned the football over, and you couldn't get them. And you had two balls up in the air, one on the ground, and one that hit you, almost in the chest there. So, once again, you got to be careful with this, because obviously the thing that sticks out the most when you look at the box score, if you did not watch the game, is, man, they threw 3 interceptions and they had a field goal blocked, but and they only gave up 16 points. I know why they lost. It's easy to have that attitude, but I think as we've kind of, objectively gone through now, that 7-minute drive after the field goal block. I mean, people say, you can't pay too much time about time of possession and all like that. That not only was that the Ravens' longest possession of the game, it was the possession that they gained the most yards on as well, too. Right. I mean, their longest completion. 57 yards, 7 minutes and 55 seconds of possession time. Right. With their third string rookie quarterback in his first game, when their entire game plan coming into that game was run the football, and then doubly so once Anthony Brown is in the game. I mean, his longest completion was
7 yards, I think, in the handful of 5 passes that he threw.
And that might have been the first one, wasn't it? The one over to the left side coming out of the goal line? Was
that went for 3. I'm looking. Okay. It looks like a pass for Mark Andrews on a pretty crucial 3rd and 4 pickup that Minkah had the tackle on. So you knew again, you know a team's going to run the ball. You still can't stop it. That sums it up right there.
Right.
And you had, and Pittsburgh tried, they threw the whole kitchen sink. Charting this game is a mess because there's so many variations, so many permutations. I mean, they had every package you could put in there, whether that's 3 outside linebackers, 3 inside linebackers, Leal, big nickel, over fronts. I mean, it's a million different things they tried to do in this game, and really nothing worked.
Comes down to personnel then, doesn't it?
It does, and that's that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's just the talent. You were just short on that overall. There were some curiosities on the Dobbins 44-yard run, followed by the 4-yard touchdown. Cam Hayward's playing nose tackle. There is no nose tackle on the field. There was no Montrevious Adams, no Tyson Alualu. Don't know the reason there. Again, that had that 2021 feel of desperation. Alualu has not played well this year. Adams has not been significantly better. So you think about maybe reinvesting there. But you had Hayward at nose tackle, gets turned out, not securing his gap, along with other issues, guys not getting off of blocks. But really, I think just last thought here defensively is one of the other storylines of this game, Dave, is the Baltimore Ravens off-ball linebackers made splash plays. The Pittsburgh Steelers off-ball linebackers do not make splash plays. And that proved to be one of the key differences in this outcome.
Sure did. Sure did. How many tackles for loss, if any, did Jack and Bush have in his game?
Let me see if I can.
I've got it pulled up right now here. Jack probably had 1 and Bush had 1. It's hard to remember which those was. One of those might have been the aborted snap, was it not?
That's a good point. I don't know who got credit for that one. It felt like Jack might have been getting credit for that one there. If I try to look it up here. Yes. Well, it says no gain on that one, so I don't know if they're giving him the tackle for loss there or not. But regardless, obviously, and again, I understand Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, they're better players than Devin Bush, than Miles Jack, but they made those impact weighty plays. And just as a broader view, we've talked about this that Bush, Jack, they've not played terribly, but they've not made the big splash plays really at any point this season.
Yep. And let's see, I'm trying to find out where Jack's tackles, where the tackle for loss was.
And I don't think either guy played well in this game. I know just as one snap, that last run that Gus Edwards had, I'm gonna have to find the all 22 once it comes up. It's the first play I'm gonna jump to because Patrick Ricard just runs back Devin Bush about 10 yards off the ball in that play. And Jack was not much better. I think he's hobbled by that knee injury, and he's struggled in coverage and just not really moving around all that well.
They're saying Huntley for 1 yard on that one. I'm struggling at finding the Jack tackle for loss here, Alex. Yeah.
Okay. I hadn't looked into it. I mean, I thought maybe that aborted play on that 4th and 1 might be the one. I'm just going through here really quickly. I'm not seeing it at all. I'm seeing no negative plays here for Jack.
I'm showing TFL in the stat. Let me just reload the stats real quick, make sure nothing was changed. I don't know why they have Jack at TFL. Bush. What about the Bush TFL? Where'd that one come from?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I mean, how many tackles for loss? It felt like Baltimore's consistently running ahead. Very few negative plays in this one. So, yeah, sometimes these box scores, it looks like Bush did have one on Gus Edwards in the 4th quarter. It was him and DeMonte Casey for a 1-yard loss. So it looks like Bush's we can find, but Jack's, I'm not so sure. Yeah. It probably was something to do with that aborted snap.
Probably was. All right. Yeah, look, and we've said all year those guys haven't made enough plays. I predicted even too that Jack, I think, would have 3 interceptions this year, and he doesn't have any. Who forced a fumble? Do you remember?
I think it was Wormley, actually. I don't know if what the box.
Yeah, they credit it to Wormley there.
Okay, he played a good game. He's always played well against Baltimore, and that's what makes the injury hurt that much more. Plus, a free agent after this year, God forbid, if he does have a torn ACL, how that's going to impact his market value. So you definitely feel for the guy.
Look, I mean, if that's torn up, I mean, he's not. It would be something for him to be even ready. I mean, you're looking at you're looking at him. You're right. He's a pup guy easily at this point.
And that's probably a 1-year deal. Prove
Right.
it, show your health, and try again in 2023. So we'll see. We don't know what the injury is. It didn't look good, but looks can be deceiving, and we'll just wait and see. But even behind that, once you lost Wormley, you lost another guy that could play the run, and Liao can't play the run. Loudermilk has been pretty, not played a lot, but I think pretty disappointing this year, even against the run. And you just really didn't have guys that could get off of blocks.
Man, when you just look at the totality of what we just talked about and some of the cast of characters in here, and those that are going to be free agents and all like that, there's a lot of holes that need to be addressed on that, on both sides of the ball, but the defense is going to have some holes. Arthur Millette played, and it's obvious because they went against a lot of heavy positional groupings. Arthur Millette, one defensive snap in this game.
Yeah, he's hardly playing lately. Now, Pittsburgh ran with a lot of 3 safety looks. Demonte Casey played a ton in this game. Actually, it wasn't even a lot of big nickel. It was some of that, but also it was some just one cornerback stuff because, the Ravens ran almost exclusively 22, 13, 21 personnel in this game. So the Casey was the run defender, DB, eraser, quote unquote, supposed to be in this game. But yeah, I think D-line was going to get a big overhaul. Ogunjobi has made plays, but he's so hot and cold watching that last snap again, just to go back to that one play because I paid so much attention to it. He's laid off the ball. He gets ragdolled around. I'm not sure if that's a guy I want to bring back because he's going to be 29 years old. The money's going to be higher. Do you want to invest that on a guy who's made some plays, but, and they like him as a pass rusher and he's done well in that regard.
I wonder how much that toe's bothering him, Alex.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a good point. He's got knee issues, he's got toe issues, but bottom line is the tape is the tape.
Right. And maybe it's a sign that he's starting to fall apart now,
Right. He had the foot issue. That's what got him hurt in the playoffs this past year, right?
Yeah. I'm curious if all that's on the same leg.
Good point.
Maybe he's overcompensating and it's leading to the problem with the knee and then, the toe maybe. And that I don't know for sure. I'm just spitballing there, but he's been, like you said, he's been hot and cold, and he's been more cold as of late.
Against the run, especially. Again, some moments against the Falcons, he ran back Drew Dalman that one play. But anyway, point is, you got free agents, you got retirements, you got aging defensive line. They're going to add to the trenches. That's very much Andy Weidl's thing. It's trench play, offense, defense. You expect some movement there.
You can't do it all in the draft either,
No, I think I'd look at a nose tackle. Always going to retire. Adams is a backup probably. So do you look for that man in the middle?
Yeah, you better address it somehow.
Yeah. Any other thoughts here with the Steelers defense?
No, I think we tore them up pretty good, fairly, right?
Yeah, I think so. Again, outside linebacker is pretty quiet. I thought they would make more plays against the run. There weren't a lot of pass rush opportunities. Watt did pick up a sack. Highsmith had a pressure there as well on that play, collapsing the pocket. But you knew you weren't going to get a lot of chances against this team. But I thought run defense, those guys didn't seem to offer a lot.
All
right, flipping over to the offense. And again, no magic, no secret behind why this team lost this game, or the offense certainly struggled. Three turnovers. And the stat that I've talked about and I've touted and will continue to tout is this team is 0-7 this year when they turn the ball over even once, regardless of turnover differential, though they were -3 in this game, which is going to lose you most games in general, regardless of who you are. But 0-7 when they turn the ball over even once, 5-1 when they do not turn the football over. They turned the ball over 3 times in this one, and there really was no margin for error there.
It goes way, way back to what we said at the start of the season, the way the 2022 Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to win some games, going to have to play good defense, going to have to not turn the football over, going to have to have a running game. And you have to be on the other side of some of these 16-14 games. And the main reason they were one of the several reasons they were able to go 3-1 in the previous 4 games is they did not turn the football over any. It's not like they were producing a hella amount of explosive plays along the way. They were able to run the ball for the most part during that 4-game span as well too. And this game, was the opposite of that. They had early run success, I thought, and maybe got away from that a little bit too much, especially down in the high red zone area in there, especially after, and it's not like Pickett only played 8 snaps. So, Mitch was in the game fairly quickly there. I didn't mind the aggressiveness to push the football down the field on the edges, so to speak. But man, those 3 interceptions, 2 of those interceptions coming in the middle of the field, down in scoring territory, where balls that he stared down, lack of a better word. And yeah, Freiermuth on that first one was kind of held up in there. We'll go a different direction or just throw it away or eat it or something there. But he definitely forced that into Roquan Smith for a very, very easy one. The second one that he tried to get to Freiermuth was just telegraphed all the way. He never saw Patrick Queen on the other side kind of lurking in there, and Queen just read his eyes right to the football in that one. And then, the deep ball, I guess that's the more forgivable one of all of them. Kind of like, I guess Deontay's down there somewhere.
Yeah, it doesn't have that ring to it like a Devontae Adams.
Right. Arm punt. I mean, it was better than some of the punts in the game, which we'll get to at some point here. But those first 2, I mean, they were just brutal, not only because how they happened, but because where they happened.
Yeah, we've talked about red zone play and red zone fringe inefficiency, and both of those were issues in this game. Had an interception in the red zone and then an interception at the Ravens 23, so that's red zone fringe right outside the 20. And then, of course, you even throw in the blocked field goal. I mean, as Mason Cole said after the game, that's a turnover. That's 9 points right there and a 2-point loss. And so really, I misstated things a moment ago when I said there was no margin for error. Pittsburgh had margin for error in this game. They had turnovers and still had chances to win this game and put points on the board. And they kept creating all that error until they ran out of margin, I guess is the way you want to phrase this thing. So can't have that. We can talk about the particulars of why those plays happen and decisions and route combinations and all those kinds of things. We can talk about that all day, but bottom line is you can't have 3 turnovers. This offense is not built to win when they turn the football over, especially in the areas in which they did turn the football over. And that's, one of the driving stories of this game.
They and in these last 4 or 5 games, they've moved the football, right?
Yeah, and they did in this game as well.
And they did in this one. That's why I said this one. Sure. and previous
Sure.
4. They moved the football. They're just not scoring points, for whatever reason. And obviously the previous ones because of turnovers. They were mostly the red zone fails, but this one was red zone fails mixed in with turnovers after you move the football, and that's. Sure. That's doubly detrimental. And then, look, we've had this debate over the years, and should blocked or missed field goals be considered turnovers? And, technically, I think they should be.
Yeah, that's one of your Dave stats.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's valid. It functionally works very similar to a turnover. I mean, at one point in this game, Mitch Trubisky was 16 for 20 with 3 interceptions. And so, I mean, he had, 3 of those 4 incompletions were falling in the Ravens' hands. And so he made some plays.
Drop.
Yeah, the other one was the Zach Gentry drop on his first pass of the game. And so, I mean, Trubisky made some plays. I mean, he moved this team down the field, but then he also moved this team off the field with some of those turnovers. And 2 over the middle, and then the deep ball to Deontay, double coverage. I have not seen the all-22 view of that one, but I imagine if you're going to take that shot, you probably have verticals on each side. You got to be able to hold and move the safety, look him off so he can't impact the play. And it felt like A, was an inaccurate throw too far in front, and B, that safety should not be involved if you're going to take that deep. Whatever deep shot you take, it's got to be 1v1, receiver versus corner. The safety should not be able to impact that play, and of course he did.
Right. And it's hard to tell. What did Pickens run on the other side? It seemed like more of like a stop route or something over on the other side. It don't look like he was flying down the sideline.
Okay, it may have been a side adjustment where you're going to stop your route if you feel like you can't beat him deep. Right. I don't know for sure. But regardless, if you're going to look at Deontay and throw it that way, you got to hold and move that safety so he can't come across. And listen, the Ravens got healthy at a good time. Dobbins came back. Marcus Williams was the guy who had the interception, who had not played since week 5 or something like that. And so their guys got healthy and made plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what it comes down to. I agree with you. I think the run game early, considering the opponent and how stout that Ravens defense is, for my money, the best run defense in football, it was making some progress, but not enough overall. And obviously they kind of got away from that later in the game.
Right. And what was the other point I was going to get to here? Oh, look, I've been for trying to let Deontay get more kind of vertical shots,
Mm-hmm.
And, he caught one on. Once again, there were Mitch made some throws in this game and did some good things. It's just the bad really outweighed the bad. I mean, triple outweighed the good that he did in this game.
Sure. Yeah, there were deep balls to Pickens and to Deontay. And, I mean, the guy definitely made some plays in this one. But when things got tight and you're scoring, your chances to finish drives or at least put points on the board, it all fell apart. And again, 9 points directly taken off the board, essentially, and a 2-point loss. I mean, you can't guarantee if you hit a couple of field goals, you win that game. The complexion of it, how does that change? But at no point did the Ravens have to throw the ball. They could control this game, which is what they wanted to do, especially when they had to turn to their third-string quarterback.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the story.
Okay. Well, who's the big discussion that you're going to hear for the next several days is who should start at quarterback if Kenny Pickett, can't get out of concussion protocol.
Sure, I get that.
We agree that if Kenny clears protocol, he's going to be the starting quarterback, right? There's no question about that.
Assuming there's not a big chunk of practice time missed, then yes, he will be the guy.
Right.
Now, yeah, if he's not in position to start, I mean, just off the top, I'll tell you who I think it will be. I'm pretty confident it's going to be Trubisky. Despite the turnovers, I don't think Tomlin's going to go to Mason Rudolph immediately like that. And again, Trubisky at least did make some plays. He moved with this offense. He's got to finish drives. He can't turn the football over. That much is very much obvious. But I'd be pretty surprised if Mason got to start over Trubisky if Pickett is unavailable.
Right. I'm with you. I think it's going to be Trubisky. Who gives you the better chance to win?
It's not that big of a difference. I mean,
technically, who maybe can push the football down the field on the outside a little bit better?
I think both do that. I think that's always been an underrated strong suit of Mason Rudolph. Right. I think Rudolph plays within maybe structure a bit more, and maybe he's a bit more conservative. And so there's a yin yang to it. You could start Rudolph. I'm not going to yell about it too much. I mean, I would understand it, but I'll just tell you, I think it's going to be Trubisky.
Right. I would give maybe the slight edge to Mason in this because of the ability to maybe push it down the field outside of the middle of the field a little bit better, maybe than Mitch can.
Trubisky did that all day yesterday. Yeah. He had 2 deep balls to Pickens, 1 to Deontay. I mean,
he also missed on one that they tried to get into the end zone there late, but
Sure. No, I get that. I mean, I think maybe the mobility Trubisky has is a bit of a benefit as well.
I don't think there's a huge offset. What I'm saying is I don't think it's like this one's glaring, a lot more glaring than the other.
No, I mean, they're relatively similar guys overall. I mean, again, Trubisky's a better athlete, more mobile, but other than that, I mean, they're not, I think maybe Rudolph a bit more accurate, but not big differences between their styles and what you're going to get from those two. So now, again, to the question of who do you think would start, do you think it'll be Trubisky?
Yeah, I think it will be. Do you think the way Trubisky mentioned how overly aggressive he was throughout his press conference after the game, do you and I thought about this after the game and after the press conference, do you think he just is in effort mode? In other words, look, I'm a dead duck here. I'm not going to be back. If I can take some chances and make some plays here, man, I might be able to parlay this into something else next year. That's the way it kind of felt to me. He's like, F it. And I really consciously, subconsciously, I think that's the way he's thinking right now. Look, I know I'm gone after this year. They ain't going to pay me $8 million to babysit Pickett here, this is a chance. I'm coming in as I got to make, this might be the last time I play this season. I'm going to take some chances here. I truly believe that's what happened in this game. And I think I think it's Mitch after the fact. Hashtag sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I think he's got a bit of that scared money, don't make money mentality going on right now.
That's a good way to put it.
I can buy that. And probably literally talking about money that he may see the offseason whenever Pittsburgh dumps him in whatever fashion they dump him. So I thought not that it matters really much at all. I thought his press conference was a little strange. He was pretty upbeat. It kind of, if you didn't know the outcome of that game, it almost felt like we won that game. He's like, man, we got a chance, and I'm just really happy for the opportunity. I'm like, you threw 3 picks and you lost that game, right? So his press conference, just kind of the tone of it was a little off to me, and not that it really matters much.
And maybe that's more that F it attitude.
Yeah, he's just like, we're just going to go out there and try. I'm going to have fun, and we'll just see what happens and let it ride. So yeah, I think I get what you're saying.
What was Cartman's famous phrase in South Park? Whatever, I do what I want.
Yeah.
So. But look, if you here's the thing with Mason. Mason's stock's never been higher.
I feel like we've said that a lot this year.
Right now, right?
I guess.
So maybe he says, "No, I'm good over here, guys. Go ahead and let because if Mason goes in there and plays bad, he hurts his stock, right? And would he be conservative Mason, or would he go in there with the same look? I see where I'm going to take some chances in this one as well too. So maybe Mason's over there thinking, you boys have at it. Good luck. Because my stock's never been higher than it is right now.
Yeah, I don't know how high that stock is. I mean,
I'm overthinking this, but that's what I do.
think you are. Yeah, I don't know. I think Rudolph would play a bit more in structure, a bit more conservative, a bit more to the letter. Whatever Canada wants, whatever the offense is asking to do, that's exactly what I'm going to do to a T. So, I mean, he can take some deep shots. He's got a pretty good arm. His accuracy on deep balls is probably better than Trubisky's overall. So again, we're talking. It's like, you're trying to paint your house, and do you want white or off-white? Like, it's the same thing. No one's really going to notice that much.
My wife would differ with you on that.
Some people will notice, but you argue about much ado about nothing, I guess. Again, my expectation is Trubisky, if Pickett cannot play, will be the starter.
Well, look, I'll go back and we'll see. And the sad thing is the all-22 didn't drop before we got on here, but it really felt like this was Trubisky just saying, look, I got to make some plays. Sorry, not sorry kind of thing here. And
right. I mean, and again, if you want to argue Rudolph, you say this team cannot win and turn the football over. Trubisky's too turnover prone. Let's try Rudolph. I mean, that would be the short answer of why you would turn to Rudolph. So, and I understand that argument. But also this team has to be able to move the football, and they can't put up 10 points a game and expect to win every single game. And so that's the argument for Trubisky. He will take more chances, and he can move this offense.
And here's the thing too, on top of it, go back to early in the season when Trubisky did play. I mean, he wasn't afraid to throw the football. We said several times, it's not a lack of him trying to push the football down the field, because he was.
Right, just inefficient was the whole offense. But he's got trust in Pickens to make big plays, and he's not afraid to throw it to him, and that's refreshing, because Pickens is a guy that may already be one of the best contested jump ball type receivers in football, and there's value in just letting him make plays and giving him chances downfield.
All right, enough of the quarterback position now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that dominates the conversation, obviously. I mean, some bright spots, like I mentioned, Pickens playing well, and only 3 targets, but he made them all count in terms of the 42-yarder right sideline, 25-yarder back shoulder left side. I mean, that was a good bounce back game for him. And
even that back shoulder throw is more like Trubisky just saying, "Here it is. Can you catch it?"
Right, which is good though, because that guy, usually the contest catch guy, has a tough road to walk. It's hard to live off of that, but Pickens is one of those rare guys that can consistently do that.
And then I like going right back to him for an end zone shot there that resulted in the PI on that.
Right. Yeah, good point. So even more targets that don't show up in the box score there. What are your other takeaways for this offense?
Offensive line overall, I mean, wasn't awful. I mean, Dotson about got Pickett knocked out of the game, but
yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that one. I think their empty protection suck. The back should have stayed in. Dotson was looking at the lefty tackle because Houston dropped. So I have to watch that one again. I think people are probably too quick to blame Dotson.
Okay. Didn't he say after the game that was on him?
Was it? I didn't see a call.
Or is he just anyway? Once again, we haven't seen the all 22 on this yet, so we'll have to dissect that. But like I said, I thought overall the offensive line played well enough.
Yeah, I mean there were ebbs and flows.
Look, they only ran the ball 6 times in the second half of this game. They only had how many possessions? 4 second half possessions in this one.
How long did they actually possess the ball, though? How many plays did they run?
They ran like 13 and 14, 27 plays.
Okay. I mean, they were obviously down in that last drive. They were throwing the football because they had to throw the football. So
right.
That skews things a bit.
Right. And 4 possessions overall in this thing. But, I mean, going back to what I said, I mean, and I'm not mad that they didn't run the football, but they didn't run the football effectively on those 6 plays overall. I think it was something like 12 or 15 yards. And I guess if you want to throw in the 15 yards that Peters gave them at the end of that one play by Warren. But I thought, overall, I thought the offensive line played okay.
Yeah, I don't think they were a major liability or the root cause of why this team lost this game. So, yeah, other things, Jalen Warren breaking some tackles, making some plays as a receiver. Deontay got more involved. His play I thought was fine. One of his better games, grading on kind of a curve there. Pat Frymuth, consistently a guy on third down that you want to target. And some of the slot guys actually caught the ball. They can throw to a slot receiver now. Steven Sims with a couple of receptions, which was refreshing.
And a nice one of those plays on getting some yak after the fact and getting a first down. We actually saw a little bit of yak in this game. Deontay had one on the left side that got a little bit of yak in there. I think Frymuth had a little bit yak on one of his, the Sims one. They continually ask Gunnar Olszewski to do things that he does not need to do, though. So this team needs to address the slot position, as we've said a couple of times now, this offseason. Sims ain't it. Olszewski ain't it. God bless Anthony Miller. He's not going to be it. Cody's not going to be it. We'll see about Austin, but we know about as much about him right now as we did the day he was drafted. Right. And it's not a good sign with him already. And plus he's undersized on top of it, unless you think he's going to be the next, undersized premier kind of slot guy that can play a ton of snaps. They're going to have to do something with the slot position.
Yeah. And the way they're using Gunnar, as that sometimes lead blocker, which is questionable as it is, you're not going to be able to do it all with Calvin Austin. And so you like that bigger slot, at least option in there.
I mean, it's hard to get mad at. Gunnar gives you the effort,
sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and again, he's using those jet runs, and so could you really use a big slot in those moments? I mean, there's ways to do it, I'm sure, but yeah, I get your point.
And it's just something that we've said some of that blocking down inside him, trying to crack and stuff like that. I mean, you're just asking him to do things that don't fit him well, in my opinion. And look, there was that one throw over on the side over there that he didn't catch. I mean, sure, it wasn't the best of throw, but you got to make that catch, I think. I mean, that's another one of those. Steven Sims had one the week earlier, a low one that thought he should have caught. And I think Gunnar should have caught that one over there on the side that was low.
Yeah, those guys don't get many chances. They have to capitalize and make those plays to get more chances. And I mean, I wrote a couple of weeks ago, the Steelers slot receivers are a black hole of nothingness, and that generally hasn't changed. And, I'd love to see a veteran receiver in that room signed in the offseason.
Right.
Any other final thoughts here for the Steelers offense? How were they on third down in this game? What were they on third down?
It felt like they started off pretty decent in this one.
4 of 8.
Okay. They just, at least they weren't having to try to convert 20 of them,
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So let's finish things up with special teams, which were not so special overall. Presley Harvin, 17-yard punt. That is a career low for him in his short
I might be able to still get one off that goes. Let's see, how far back is he from the line of scrimmage? So that would take
10 yards.
Yeah, 10. I don't know. Maybe I couldn't get it get one to go 27 off my foot. But yeah, that was disheartening to see.
I'm waiting for Ben on his podcast tonight to say I punted further than 17 yards, which he has. And so that's Ben could have done better there. So it took a bad bounce, but the actual punt itself was not much. It was like 25 yards or whatever it was. So not any better there. Chris Boswell had that field goal blocked, and I think that was especially frustrating because it was blocked by one of the greatest field goal blockers in NFL history in Calais Campbell, who's a tough guy to defend, but that's a guy that I'm sure Danny Smith was talking about all week. Can't let this guy impact those blocks, and he gets one.
What makes it even worse is to hear Calais Campbell after the game talk about how they schemed that up.
Yeah, what did he say exactly? They changed their approach last second?
I will pull that for you, sir.
I think he talked about swimming the long snapper and I guess getting right in that A gap and he's a big, tall guy. And again, like the way he's played at 36, I mean, he's just an incredible player. Probably still one of the more underrated players in football. What he's doing at his age, his run defense, his impact of the game is remarkable.
He said on his field goal block, speaking of coaching, special teams coordinator coach Chris Horton called pretty much an audible. Chris Horton came to me on the sideline and it was like, hey, I'm going to switch it up. I know we don't practice it, but that's a dagger. I know we don't practice it, but I want to get you in the A gap and try to swim on the snapper. We did it last year against some, but I haven't worked on that since last year. It was a good call. He kicked the ball and I had a good chance to get up there and get my left hand on it. It was a good feeling.
Yeah, it was a good feeling for him. Steelers fans wouldn't share the sentiment, but yeah, I mean, that's just special teams blunders and errors have been popping up too much lately, whether that's kick coverage, whether that's punter, whether that's field goal protect, just too many issues.
What about at least, and they, the punt, the device, the guys on the outside just didn't. I didn't think did a good job of, and just the punt coverage, the punt defending, punt return team in general, I don't think blocked very well. And then it kind of gets lost in all of it there. But you had a James Pierre holding call in there. Do you even remember that?
Yeah, and I know on some of the punt returns, Pittsburgh had their starting defense out because some of those were 4th and 1s and real short yardage situations where Pittsburgh plays for the fake, and so they keep their whole defense out there. But still, not getting anything there. I think Sims had one decent kick return, but that was about it.
I mean, this is a team that we tell everybody during the offseason they're going to keep this guy, that guy, this guy because of special teams ability. And you have several of those guys on this team: Derek Watt, Killebrew, Boykin, Benny Snell football, Marcus Allen. Who else? Spillane to some degree. Guys that, it's not like all these guys are minimum salary dudes either. And not only that, you go out and you sign a guy like Gunnar Olszewski in free agency who's supposed to be, the guy that you're bringing in for return guy, and he's no longer the return guy for you. So not near enough plays on special teams this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. Too many issues, not enough splash. That's a good way to sum things up.
Right.
All right. Any other final thoughts here? Coaching, anything from Tomlin? It didn't feel like there were any major blunders, I suppose, from any sort of standpoint there.
Yeah, didn't coach well enough. You hate to see that one timeout get burned at that one point, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it's true.
Wasn't hugely. I mean, look, I don't know what you want to talk about the play call. People say, well, they don't look at the points they scored overall, but it didn't feel like it was actually. It felt like the interceptions killed this team. Period. Right. on offense. I mean, they did a lot of other things good. They just didn't put the ball in the end zone again.
Yeah, or at least through the uprights when they had chances. They were just giving the ball away once they would get near the 20. Again, 2 of 4 in the red zone, and that, with an interception and a blocked field goal. So, yeah, that 2 of 4 is probably a bit misleading because they only had 2 trips of points. Red zone's measured based off of touchdown success. Field goals, you still get dinged against. But this one, you had 2 possessions where you came away empty-handed, plus a red zone fringe, which does not show up, obviously, in the red zone stat. So to me, they're basically 2 of 5 with 3 trips in which they did not produce points. And that is just not going to win you any games.
Look, we'll obviously digest the all 22 on this, but I don't think we're going to come away with this time with many more revelations than what the TV tape showed. All it's going to show us is who was more to blame on some of this run stuff, and what Trubisky saw or looked at saw on these 3 interceptions, and what else are we going to find out on specifically how the offensive line played? Overall, I don't think there's going to be earth-shattering revelations on the all 22 this time around.
No, I mean, of course, you want to go back and see some of the specifics of a moment of a play and just some of the general trends. I want to get a deep dive into the big reasons for the run defense, but I think it's really just going to be no one got off a block. I mean, you don't get off a block, I mean, you're not going to make a play.
Right.
All right, that's going to probably wrap things up from post-game analysis standpoint prior to the all 22. Let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's do that here, and let's start back a few. I don't want to miss anything here. Looks like from a few days ago here, Bruce AM writes in, Dave, can you break down the William Jackson's contract? Does he count $12.75 million against next year's cap? Yeah, we've gone over this a few times. They're going to have to make a decision on William Jackson come March, I believe, is the thing with him. Let me pull up my spreadsheet here real quick here overall. He is scheduled to earn a base salary in 2023 of $9.25 million. He is due a roster bonus in March on top of that of $2.5 million. He has per game roster bonuses that he can earn in 2023 of up to $750,000. He also has a workout bonus of $250,000. I think that's going to be off season as well there on top of it. So his cap number as is right now is slated to be $12.75 million in 2023. I can pretty much, don't want to talk in absolutes here because I've been burned in the past, but I can almost damn near promise you that they're not going to, he's not going to be a $12.75 million cap hit in 2023. Once again, that roster bonus due date is in March of $2.5 million. Either they're going to rework this deal somehow or another for him to stay, or they're going to cut him outright.
Yeah, pretty simple calculation. He's not coming back at that number. I don't even see how you justify bringing him back unless it is super cheap on a totally reworked deal. But
right.
It's just a shot in the dark this team took. Didn't work out. You move on.
Right. This is going to be one of those kind of Justin Gilbert type situations. It feels like to some degree.
It's getting more of the Levi Brown nature.
Yeah. You cannot pay this guy that kind of money right now, regardless, even if you get him back this week and he really would have to play really, really, really well in these final 4 games for you to keep him at this number.
Assuming he even does, he's got to get back. He's got to get designated to return, then get the practice time. Dude hasn't played since week 5. I'm not sure if we'll see this guy at all this year. Maybe week 17, week 18 when the season's officially over, but I'm not counting on him playing against Carolina.
I mean, $9.25 million alone, that base salary is enough to warrant him not being around. So that's the update on his contract, but there's nothing guaranteed in any of that. So it's not like there's dead money associated.
Right. That's the upside. There was no draft pick officially will be given and no money for next year. So the risk was low, but the reward was appears to be about 0.
Josh Rubin writes in, Steelers playoff path via 3-way tie. How in the hell is Steelers still in the hunt graphic? He says, hey, David Alex, is it the case and perhaps can be relief to Steeler Nation that the Steelers, Jets, and Ravens tie and the Steelers can get in with a 2-1 record among the teams since the Jets lost to the Ravens? Assuming it is the case, it allows us to sleep better, not hoping for Chargers loss. If you're reading this next week, it might be a moot point. I think it's just a mute point. He sent this 3 days ago on a Friday.
That makes more sense then.
So happy. The key point here to his email, happy holidays to you and your families. Because I think we are beyond anything else. Josh, sorry we got to it late here. There's no sense entertaining Steelers playoff chances right now. I mean, if you want to have fun and play with the math and all like that, they gotta win out, and they need a lot of help. And the Chargers winning Sunday night did not help things. We'll see what happens. If the Patriots somehow beat the Cardinals on Monday Night Football, that's not going to help in any of that. So it's in. You could win out at this point and still not get in because not enough things might happen.
Sure, it would take just so much. And listen, I know we all joked about, hey, they're going to beat Carolina. Carolina's 5-8. They're doing well under Steve Wilkes. I mean, they ran for 2 bills yesterday. So, I mean, Carolina is not even a walk in the park.
They ran for 200 something yards. In that game.
Who's even their backs? It's Chuba Hubbard and who else? I mean, I don't even know who's on that team right now.
All right. Who was the other back in that game? Let me pull that up.
Not even sure what they're doing post McCaffrey. I think it was Hubbard. I want to say.
Oh, Foreman. Right. Both Foreman and Hubbard rushed for 74 yards each in that game. And then Blackshear had 4 carries for 32 yards. Probably a change of pace guy. They had 3 wide receiver runs, one by Chenault and 2 by Moore in that game there. And then Darnold also had 30 yards on 4 scampers.
Wow. Now look at him go. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just focused on
23 yards on 46 carries. Wow.
Yeah, just trying to beat Carolina because that's a team that should not be overlooked.
Steve Novakovic writes in, hey, Dave and Alex, I'm writing this on Saturday before the Steelers face off against the Ravens. Hopefully there will be so much excitement over a big win tomorrow that you won't have time for these questions without doing any math. Alex, can Jens give the listeners any high-level comments regarding the Steelers' cap health next year? We don't know what the league's cap number will be, but we should be able to know how recent big contracts for Minka and DJ will factor in, along with any dead money roll-off. When you have a starting quarterback on a rookie contract, money should be available. Will we have plenty to spend this offseason? I'm going to give you a short and dirty answer without going through all the math, which I will do immediately after the season's over. I don't want to get all detailed right now with 4 weeks left in the season, but I will tell you this. They will have plenty enough to do what they probably need or should do, and especially if they cut guys like William Jackson, Mitch Trubisky. I mean, just looking, let's pull them up real quick on the overall top 10. And look, there's going to be, like it or not, there's probably going to be restructure in there. Their top cap earners in 2023 charges are obviously Watt at 29.3. It won't be shocking to see that if need, a break glass in case of emergency type situation with him. Minka, if you don't want to touch TJ, you can go to the bank of Minka coming off of a new deal and do something with him to work that number down. You're probably not going to touch Deontay Johnson's contract because it's so short, but that's a 16.3. He's not going anywhere, so you might as well pencil in that cap number staying at 16.3 million. Miles Jack, I mean, it's hard to. They're going to keep Miles Jack past this year, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a case to be made. I mean, it's just one inside linebacker after another of guys that aren't quite meeting the standard. You got the cornerback discussion with Akella, Witherspoon, what happens with him and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we'll see where it goes.
Between Mitch and William Jackson III alone, you have $20 million in cap space that you can free up right there. What's going to happen with Akello Witherspoon? You going to bring him back at $4 million?
Well, what happens with Cam Sutton is part of that equation potentially. Right. We'll see. I haven't thought about it too much. Point is, to your broad answer, they're going to have plenty of money.
They will be able to do whatever they need to do. So there's no reason to worry about and here's the thing too. I wanted to ask Joel Corey about this before I kind of wrote about it more. There was an article on NFL.com on, I think last week sometime, 8 days ago. Salary cap for 2023 NFL season could exceed the $220 million, but questions remain. So it's still, because of the revenue from new TV deals and this, that, and the other. It could be more than the $220 million that everybody's been working on the number about. So if it is more than $220 million, well, that's in excess of numbers that I'm going to be working off of for a little bit as well. So
how much in rollover cap do the Steelers have projected?
As they sit
they have money
right now,
like $5 million, $6 million.
They might whittle into this a teeny tiny more. 4.897. So let's say it ends up being
4. Let's call it 4.
Because of elevations and all like that.
Sure.
So they should roll over it probably. And last year they rolled over 7.7 million. So this year they'll probably roll over in the neighborhood of 4.
And then Ben's off the books officially, right? And those kinds of things. So all those things combined, I don't have the exact number, but you can pretty clearly see there's a lot of money to play with.
Right. And like I said, after the season, we got a lot of time.
We will have a lot of time. Very clear. Yeah.
Adam Gesk writes in, on the final first down run, what's the point of having Minka play so far back that when he does make the tackle, the game is over? And Casey further back than that, ? Literally would have been better off without those guys on the field and just let him score. Point taken. We'll have to look at you should have did everything in your power just to sell out to stop the run on that final third down. Everything.
Yeah, I'll have to check that. I know that in some of the packages, they would have a really deep safety and they play the other guys up front. If they had 2 back, if both Minka and Casey were back, that's a concern. If there's 1 guy back, that's a bit more within their personality. Right. So I'll have to go back and check that.
Number 2, more importantly, want to circle back on the secondary and see where your heads are at now. I've maintained that this secondary is nearly perfectly comprised for what the Steelers want to do, which is stop the run, pass rush, not give up big plays. I think the investment needs to be better in the front 7 and even more. So just a better offense and secondary is probably the last thing I'm looking at. What's going to happen? The biggest questions that you have going into this offseason, what are you going to choose out of Levi Wallace and Akello Witherspoon? It's probably going to be an either or. Probably, I don't think Jackson's going to be back. If he is back, it's going to be on a much lower deal. You got to sign Cameron Sutton. There's no two ways about it. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, again, what that number is hard for me to really put my finger on. I know you mentioned 13 mil the other day.
Yeah, I mean, what as long as it's not, outrageous. I mean, you got to figure out a way to get this guy back, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Wallace will be back. He's played well enough. He'll be back. Witherspoon's the question mark. You got
Pierre. You're going to keep him on a restricted, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
What are you going to do with Millette?
He's under contract, right?
I believe he is.
It's cheap.
Right?
Yeah, he'll be back just for depth and cheap not really versatility, but glue guy, all that kind of stuff. Again, yeah, the trench play is where this team will focus, but you love a number 1 corner. Sutton, I think, is a talented guy. He's played really well since the bye, but he's not probably a true number 1 type corner. You get a bunch of number 2s on this team. What happens with Terrell Edmonds and your safety depth overall? That's a question as well. And so what happens with Casey? A lot of questions there.
Casey's another one that's going to be unrestricted as well too. You're going to make a decision about. I still maintain from where I sit right now, and I know it's going to anger a lot of people, the Joey Porter Jr. fans and all like that. especially if we're talking about first round. If you can get Joey Porter in the second round, have at it, I think. But I don't see how you can spend a first round draft pick on a shutdown corner, and especially if the mindset is not to let that kid travel.
Yeah, I get that. Again, it comes back to who's on the board, what else is available, all those kinds of things that are just impossible to predict right now.
Seth Bergstein writes in, just wondering if you guys think the failure to stop the run was more scheme, players, or both. Some folks are swearing the team was selling out to stop the run, but just got bullied. I'm no expert, but it didn't seem like we were selling out. Thoughts? I mean, I think it's they got their butts handed to them. Mike Tomlin said they got pushed off the ball and ball carriers were pulling forward or falling forward in there. We haven't seen the all 22 on that. I'd like to look at some things on a couple of those runs for sure. But I mean, especially late, shame on you. You know what's coming and you don't stop it. Plain and simple.
That's the most damning thing you can say about this defense in the entire game. There were probably some scheme things. Again, Hayward as the nose on those 2 runs by Dobbins, the 44-yarder and the touchdown that followed. Don't love that. But I think generally speaking, it was just guys getting bullied up front, as you said and as Tomlin said.
Bryce, hey guys, it's Bryce. Putting this terrible loss more on the players than the coaches. Ravens were a more physical team. Watching the game initially, did you guys see a lot of 4-4 or 5-3 fronts with heavy run blitzing? I know if you sell out too much, then they hit you the quarterback mobility stuff to the outside, but it seemed from a run game standpoint, we didn't really cause any havoc in the front seven, got no penetration, couldn't beat blocks. Do you think this is a game where Mark Robinson and Loudermilk should have played more to help with the physicality? I don't. As we said, they got pushed. They didn't beat blocks.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, Robinson, they're not going to do anything to change the course of this game.
No, people are wanting reasons for Robinson and Loudermilk to have played more. I mean, I don't think it would have all helped all that much because they're getting beat up front.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should have been more aggressive and try to do some fires and blitz some of those guys a bit more. I'm not quite sure. So again, there are probably some schematic things on the margin to talk about. But when you're the least physical team, you get dominated like that. It doesn't really matter what you do schematically. Deontay and Mitch are talented, but suffer from the same issue of poor football mentals. They've got physical tools to be number one guys, but consistently make too many mistakes to carry the full mantle, especially Mitch. I mean, my goodness, he makes the same mistakes he's made since he came into the league. Not great, Bob. He says, look, you're not going to have to worry about Mitch after the season. I understand the point. I think Mitch is a talented guy, but he gets him. I mean, he's his own worst enemy at times. Yeah, and I think Deontay, some things that Deontay, and we talked about this, a show or two ago there. Deontay, I think at times is now just trying to do way too much, even though it has been a thing of his of in trying to make people miss after the catch of running backwards. I don't think that's. I don't look like it's going to go away anytime soon. It kind of feels like who he is and all, but I think some of the other stuff is him trying to do too many things. Look, he was able to win vertically a couple of times and make some plays down the field, and he had to catch over on the left side that got some yak over there. I'm not putting this on Deontay. No, he was fine. It was one of his better games. Still looking for that first touchdown. He is getting close to the NFL record of finishing a year, so we'll have to wait till after the season. But NFL record for most receptions in a season without a touchdown is 75. Deontay's at 67 right now. He's going to finish the year with more than 75 receptions, and so he will need to catch a touchdown to avoid that negative stat of the weird. All right, one more that just came in from Ronald Hall, and we'll call it quits. Question for you guys. With all the in-game injuries and concussions to quarterbacks taking place each week, why don't teams go with 3 active quarterbacks on their game day roster? The odds of returning to a game after a concussion is really low, and I bet Tomlin would have pulled Mitch for Rudolph after the second interception if that option was available to him. Teams should not have to worry about playing their emergency quarterbacks. In the Steelers' case, it was Gentry if the backup goes down or just isn't playing well. Curious to get your thoughts on this, especially with the changes to the concussion protocols. Thanks for taking the question. And look, it's just a matter of how many times does it actually happen? The odds and roster construction.
it just look. Ronald, I will tell you this. And Alex is probably the same. I think 53-man rosters need to be expanded, and I think game day rosters need to be expanded. And I think as part of that, maybe game day roster expansion, it should be sort of like the offensive line rule that they have right now. You can dress 48 players if you have 8 offensive linemen active, right?
Right. Yeah, there's some expansion. Yeah, I'm with you on the expansion overall. Right now, part of the reason why teams have only 2 quarterbacks is to maximize other spots, the guys that can help on special teams or rotations and things like that. And so maybe there should be a carve out. I mean, where that third quarterback can be active, or if your first 2 guys didn't that used to be a thing where if your first 2 quarterbacks got hurt, then your number 3 quarterback could come in the game.
You used to have an emergency quarterback designation.
Why did they get rid of that? Why would
Yeah, that's a great. I'll have to go back and look at some of the rulings on that and all. But why not integrate? I guess the thing is maybe well, here's the thing: if your emergency quarterback entered the game back then, none of the other 2 could come back into the game. So
yeah, which I'm okay with. That's
right.
Fine.
You want to talk about people? I guess the whole faking injury, I don't know, thing and all like that. But how many people are actually going to want their third quarterback in the game?
Right. Our grand plan, play our third string
in the game here. But Ronald, look, I mean, I see where you're coming from. It's not practical from the way the roster rules are right now, quite honestly. However, Alex, it sounds like it as well too, would be in favor of them bringing, if anything, just bring back the emergency third quarterback rule here. Now, the question that becomes, is a team going to roster, because a lot of teams don't even roster 3 quarterbacks. So maybe if you make a stipulation that you can carry a 54-man roster if 3 quarterbacks are on that roster, and then on top of it you can play the emergency quarterback rule and technically dress 49 players if you meet the other roster stipulations. How does that sound?
I think they should codify that today. Exactly. I think you're 100% right about that. And I bet you the NFL will do that someday when it gets to a point where Zach Gentry ends up having to play the third quarter of a playoff game or something like that. And there's this big outcry over that. And the NFL will finally revert back. So I bet you within 5 years that happens and the NFL actually institutes that rule.
I guess the only pushback would be is, when that third quarterback can enter the game. If it's just because of first one getting knocked out and the second one sucking, No,
it should be the way it was. They had it perfect. The NFL loves to tweak things when things are fine. First 2 quarterbacks get hurt, then the third quarterback is eligible to play, and the other quarterbacks cannot come back in.
All right, Ronald, you provoked a good discussion there, and but I mean, just on a practical sense, it's not practical overall the way the NFL roster rules are right now.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll no live stream tonight. That'll be next Monday. And we'll come back on Wednesday, go through the all 22 and take it from there.
All right. How about a little gloom, despair, and agony on me to end this podcast out here? We will be back on Wednesday. We will watch all of the all 22, talk about that, talk about Tomlin Tuesday, start going over injuries, looking ahead to the Carolina Panthers game next week, which will be on CBS, by the way. Early game action there. Probably not going to be a lot of Steeler fans going to be able to see this across the country unless you have DirecTV or a stream or something. But in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Good job, Alex. We shall move forward, and we'll talk to everybody on Wednesday. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.